go. From then on, it didn't start up when I got to my meditation time. because it didn't need to. I was done with that part of the training. And so, one of the things that we need to make sure, again, if we know that there's only the presence of God, and we know that the Christ indwells us, what can interfere with that? Only what we let it. And so if our choice, if our conscious choice is, nothing can interfere with my connection, my conscious connection with God. That's who I am. And so prayer and meditation are just ways of making that real to us. And so we get, again, use words and images and practices and all kinds of things to do that. And so the key is that we each have to find our own way. Some people can sit very quiet and pray in that way. Some people need to move in order to pray, because that's just the way they are. And so for some people, like doing Tai Chi can be a way of centering their energy, or Qigong, so that they can move and with it. Some people can meditate while they jog. That's not something that I can do, but for them, they can do it. Some people use music as a part of their meditation, again, to help create a space where they can let go into and be a part of that. That doesn't work for me because I'm always analyzing the music. Okay, what chord are they on and where are they going? What's the rhythm? I can't do that. Yeah. But so you have to find what you want. Some people like to use incense, or there's some other kind of fragrance, flowers in the room to again help create a space for them. So you have to find what works for you in that, so that you have that time that you created for yourself. You're honoring the truth of your being, so that you can live from that truth as you go through your day, and particularly as you're working and praying for others. That you've got that, that connection that you're coming from, that can be a blessing then. That's how it's going to work in your life. Now, one of the things that I like to use an example about trying to describe what prayer is about, I think of a sponge. Now, when you use a sponge, the sponge is just a vehicle, isn't it, for whatever cleaning solution that you're going to use, your water, whatever you're going to use, and its job is just to soak it up, isn't it? You soak it up so that when you squeeze it out, what comes out is what you're working. So I've got a couple bins here. Now, well, in this case, I'll do this one here first. So, can you see a color there? I don't know if it's dark enough for you to see. What color do you see? Green. Green, yeah. So now, if I put this sponge in there, what color when I squeeze it, what would come out? What color would it be? Green. So now this sponge is yellow, this sponge is white, but what's going to come out is what's I've absorbed in it. So in this bin over here, I've got, when I squeeze this, what do you see here? Red, okay. So it's not about the color of the sponge, it's not about the color of the bin, it's about the color of what's in there, right? And so if we're filling ourselves with a sense of peace and joy, wisdom and love, when life squeezes us, what's going to come out? That's what's going to come out, isn't it? So if we've been filled up with disappointment and frustration and pain, and life squeezes us, what's going to come out? And so when you're dealing with someone who's going on and on about, what their life is, we know that that's what they've immersed themselves in, isn't it? And so, what do we want to know that we're about? So if we've spent time filling ourselves with the joy and the peace and the love, the wisdom of God, then even when someone else is about something else, we're still going to know who and what we are and what we're about. And we're going to be that presence. I think it's like, the patient saying, I want what she's on. That's what we want people to say. Why are you smiling all the time? Well, do you want the whole story? Or you just, or not, because if you don't want the whole story, I'm not going to bother. But if you want to know what it's about, I'll be glad to share it with you. And so that's what it's about, finding what's going to work for us individually in that process, because, it's your prayer time. And even as we work with affirmations, when I work with people with affirmations, I'll say, I'm going to start you with this one. But as you work with this, God's going to give you an expansion or a change or something completely different. So pay attention to what God's going to give you. All I'm doing is starting you in a direction. That as you go in that direction, Spirit will reveal more and you'll be learning and growing. Because hopefully this affirmation, you will outgrow it. And that you'll get this grander conception of who God is and what you are as a part of that and what your life is meant to be about. And these words are going to be shallow and nearly emptiness because you're going to have something grander that you're about. And so that's the process of prayer. It's ongoing. And so even when we use a set form like the Lord's Prayer that we do every Sunday, if we let that prayer be something that we open up into, it opens us up to something greater. So it's not about a particular set of words, but it's about what's going on inside of us. And so there's lots of forms of prayer, but I don't want you to be attached to the form. I want you to know that there's something more that you can have. On our website, our church website, I don't know if you've explored it recently, there's on the home page, on the right-hand side, there's a place to go. It says affirmations. If you click on there, I think it's on the right side, there's a whole other page of affirmations. There's about 200 affirmations on the page. And there's a little bit at the top about affirmation, affirmative prayer. But then there's some categories. If you click on there, it'll jump down the page to the different categories. So there's some on healing, and there's some on prosperity, and there's different categories that are there. And I invite you to build your own list of affirmations. And if you want to has a notebook that you carry with you, have a list of affirmations that when you've got a minute when you're waiting for something, you're on hold. I mean, how many times you're trying to get a hold of somebody, you're on hold, or even at your computer and it's a slow internet day, and you're clicking on there and it's taking a long time to load something. Just have some affirmations there that you can just run through your mind and be working with. So that's what your mind is about. Because my goal is that when I'm not thinking about anything, I want to be thinking about God. When my mind isn't occupied with something, and sort of that neutral state, what I want are thoughts of God working in my mind. And so if you've got an affirmation that you've worked with over and over again, that's what's going to rise out of your mind when it's not engaged in something. And what a great thing. Charles Fillmore used to say that to really, when you have a new affirmation that you're working with, that you need to say it 2,500 times to connect with it. And I sort of think of it this way when Peter asked Jesus, well, how many times should I forgive someone if they've done something against me? 7 times? And Jesus says, no, 70 times 7. And to me, the subtext there is, and if you're counting, you're not forgiving. Yeah, and it's like, I forgave him 7 times, I forgave him 77. Yeah, then you're not forgiving, you're still holding on to it. And so it's not about a particular number that you're going to get to, but it's about building it into your consciousness. What does it take to build into your consciousness? I find that many times, if I'm doing a series of affirmations that I want to work on, I will do each one 3 times. Again, it's a way of I'm not just going to say it once and run to the next one. I want to really get into this and make sure that I'm getting what it's about, because the second time I say it, there's a different word is going to stand out in my mind, in my feelings. The third time I say it, a different word, another word is going to stand out and work in another way, deeper in me, than if I just go through it once. There's an ancient tradition with the Lord's Prayer, saying the Lord's Prayer 12 times. And again, some of us grew up in the tradition where we did the Our Fathers. It's like when we misbehaving, okay, you need to do 10 Our Fathers, and you run through it as fast as you could to get to the end of it. And there wasn't about a spiritual experience at all.
Just get it done.
But if you take this, and one of the ways that I like to do this is a great discipline, is to take one word of the Lord's Prayer with each in-breath and each out-breath, and to take it slow and watch what happens in your experience of that prayer. Oh, it's a different prayer when they'll do it like that.